Guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Frank, the home of men's mental health. Today, you join myself, Jack Howard. Sadly, no Mr. Ryan Smith today, but we have got a very special guest in James Lindsay. James is a remarkable individual with a story of resilience and determination in the face of mental health. In 2016, he experienced an altercating event that struck by psychosis, leading to him being sectioned. Through this journey, James was diagnosed with schizophrenia disorder, a condition that combines symptoms of both schizophrenia and mood disorders. Despite the hardship he has faced, James has channeled his energy to make a positive impact in his life and that of others, devoting his spare time to helping those understand, and he's also taken the time out to write a incredible book that we will talk about today. So, guys, please welcome the one and only Mr. James Lindsay. How you doing, mate?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that nice intro. That was really cool.
Problem at all, mate. I do try my best sometimes. We have to give a bit of effort every now and then. But no, mate, it's great to have you on. I know we've spoke briefly on the lead up to this to get you onto the podcast. And yeah, mate, how are you feeling today? What have you been up to today?
Today's been a really good one, actually. This morning I went and done open water swimming in a lake near where I live, and it's something I got into last year, but this year it's the first like of the year, if that makes sense. So that felt really good. And then I've been recording the audio book for the book, so we've been doing it for the last few months. It's taken a while, but it looks like today potentially might be the last sort of recording bit. So fingers crossed we don't have to re-record any bits. Yeah, it's been a really good day actually, productive and enjoyable. Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, it's Joe what, mate. It's been a busy weekend. So I'm in the process of moving at the moment. So literally the past, I think, week, 2 weeks I've spent at the new property, just like stripping wallpaper, decorating, being there till like half 11, 12 o'clock at night. So I'm
Oh wow.
absolutely shattered. The other half's in the other room, sorting the kids out, doing a bit of ironing, ready for us then to hit Monday morning. Because again, next week's going to be another busy week.
Wow.
But with regards to obviously this book you've written, and we're going to go into a load of detail throughout this whole episode, what made you like write this book? What made you go? Do you know what? I need to put this in writing.
It was when I started reading other mental illness memoirs, and there was one in particular that was kind of like a breakthrough moment for me. It's funny, it's similar to the name of this podcast. So the book's called Let Me Be Frank. It's by Frank Bruno, who used to be a boxer, and he's been sectioned 3 times and he's got bipolar disorder. And so reading his story and me relating to it so much, it gave me a lot of comfort knowing that other people out there who are ill or have been through it and come out the other side. Gave me a lot of hope that I could do the same. But it kind of made me realize the power of reading other people's stories and passing it on, and it kind of made me wanted to like write my story and hopefully make other people feel good or feel hope or just raise awareness and all those good things that comes with it.
It's surprising and quite astonishing how other people's life stories influence other individuals. So for me, um, you know, getting kind of diagnosed in 2018 with PTSD and mental health in all, but it wasn't until September 2020, I believe it was. I was on holiday with my other half, and I read Fox's, so Jason Fox's book. I read his first one he brought out, and to be fair, that's probably that is the second only book I've ever read. I'm not a great reader, but that book I read that, and it enabled me to understand more of what it was I was going through. And I know that's, a lot of people listening will be like, oh, I bet he was in, the SAS and he'd done this and everything else. But if you looked at the symptoms he was going through when he came back from operations, were very similar to my own, of the anxiety and certain fears of like um seclusion and all that lot. There was a lot there, and it helped me understand. So again, the power of someone else telling their story, using their voice, like we say on Let's Be Frank, that is really, really powerful. So, with regards to your mental health, could take us back to the beginning. What what happened, and when did it all kind of start?
So I broke up with a long-term partner, and that was kind of the trigger of my first psychotic episode. And I moved out of Wales, living with her, and back with my mum, dad, and brother. And my sleep just completely like vanished. I was having sleepless nights, and slowly kind of getting worse and worse, and having like delusions and hallucinations. Um, so my behavior became like very erratic and concerning. I was like talking very rapidly and not making much sense, like jumping from one subject to the other, and behaving very out of character. So mum took me to the doctors, and eventually later on had to take me to A&E, and I got sections under the Mental Health Act. So I had to spend 4 weeks in a psychiatric ward, which was traumatizing, but at the same time a blessing in disguise because it meant I could get the help I needed, get like medication and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where it all started. To be honest, it was kind of stress or like from the breakup, which led to the lack of sleep, and yeah, just complete breakdown.
How old was you when this kind of first episode happened?
I was 26.
Was there any inkling of kind of mental health previous to that, or was it kind of this one episode and it just like sparked something?
Mm, I didn't really have LinkedIn, no, so my kind of awareness and understanding of it was very minimal. Um, so when I was kind of in my psychotic state, I just didn't think anything was wrong with me, and like it was only through other people seeing the signs and the behaviour. Because I mean, up until then, I had had a bit of anxiety growing up, but nothing kind of major until that point. So it was like kind of my first big experience of mental illness.
And how was that feeling, knowing obviously something wasn't right at the time?
At first, like I was in denial, so like I was denying that I needed help, and kind of trying to just carry on with my life and sort of ignore the signs. And it might have been a bit of a male thing as well, like not wanting to admit it and appear weak and things like that. Um, it was kind of yeah, build up, and I eventually it took a while, but I eventually like realized um, that something wasn't right with me when I was sectioned, and I kind of thought, why am I here? And then I kind of realized, okay, like I need to get better if I want to get out.
No, and it must have been hard. So for the listeners that don't know, obviously, so what it, what is it you've been diagnosed with? Schizoaffective disorder, is that correct?
Yeah, that diagnosis didn't come till 4 years later. My initial diagnosis was acute psychosis with symptoms of schizophrenia, which is a bit of a mouthful. It's a bit more vague, um, but I think the diagnosis kind of develops as I guess I saw the mental health professionals more, and they were able to like sort of understand it and analyze all the behaviors.
Did seeing the professionals help you understand more, or excuse me, or did it make it more difficult because it was brought to the forefront?
I think, yeah, they were all really helpful, the people that I encountered, but there was also an element of like understanding it myself. So Googling the diagnosis and kind of researching it online, and as we just spoke, eventually reading memoirs and stuff, because that's where like the kind of the clinical side of it and the personal side kind of meet together, and you kind of you connect the dots, and you like read someone else's behavior and explanation, you're like, oh, that sounds exactly like me. So it was kind of like, yeah, multiple sources.
So it's kind of reading again, listening and reading other people's stories on their life experiences kind of sparks that light bulb moment in yourself to go, okay, it kind of makes sense now. I'm not. Did you ever have that moment like I did a few times where you kind of say to yourself, like, bloody hell, I'm not crazy for the way I'm thinking. There's something genuinely going on. Because again, when I had it when I was in the army, I'd like you know, I had hierarchy, I had best friends all telling me that I was basically just chatting shit. I was lying. There was nothing wrong with me. How could I have had anything wrong with me? I had a lot of that. And again, it was that kind of alpha and male ego. And I've got friends now that as they're coming out of the army, are now coming to me going, "Oh, bloody hell! I've got this, and this going on," and I'm like, "Yeah, you've got PTSD, mate. That's the big symptoms. That's what I went through." And they're starting to connect the dots and put everything together. Was there anyone back then that kind of turned around to you and was like, "You're basically kind of lying about it," or there's nothing wrong with you, or was everyone kind of really supportive? How did it work for you?
Yeah, everyone was really supportive, and I think ironically, the only person saying there's nothing wrong with you was myself, sort of trying to naively kind of convince myself that I was okay. And it took a while to kind of accept what other people were saying was the truth and that I was wrong.
It's definitely a hard one. And how was the I will not I'm going to use the word strain, but out of context. So how was the strain on your immediate family? So like your mum, your brother. Obviously, I know you saying then that you was living with them. So what was it like for them? Have you ever sat down now after that and gone, how was that for you? Are you okay from that experience? Because it must have been tough for
Mm.
as a parent seeing your child go through that.
Yeah, we've spoken about it quite a lot since, and initially I just felt horrible about it. Like I thought I was the worst person for how I treated them and what I put them through, and I felt a lot of guilt, like big time. But they were really good about it because saying that I was unwell and it wasn't actually me that was doing it, um, which was hard for me to kind of accept at first because I used to think, well, it's still my body and my like voice that was saying the nasty things, and um, but I was really unwell and I wasn't myself, and it took me a while to get there, but I did eventually get to that kind of self forgiveness, self compassion. Um, and again, I keep going back to it, but like I think in other people's stories, they also talked about treating their friends and family not great when they were the ones trying to help them and things like that. So um, there was that enormous comfort in that. But yeah, it does. The strain on people around you is like enormous. Um, it does affect them because like when I was searching, for example, the 4 weeks I was living in the wards, um, I missed my brother's 21st birthday and the party and stuff, which was really hard because it's like a big milestone in his life, and I could like only imagine the sort of scene at that party with like kind of my mum and dad trying to kind of put on a brave face, but at the back of their mind, it's like I'm at the wards and I'm ill and stuff. So yeah, there's all sorts of things like that.
And how do you feel now about it?
Um, I think I'll still like always carry the guilt in some way, like even if it's just a tiny bit. Like I mean, I've forgiven myself and all that stuff. And I kind of don't know. I was going to say try not to think about it, but I think writing a book helped a lot because it kind of made me process what happened, and I sort of wrote down what happened and then read it back, and it kind of almost normalized it, and definitely helped me kind of process all the trauma, um, and like people's reaction to the book and like the conversations it's led to have just like made me feel a lot better about it.
Ah, that's awesome, man. And so obviously you've gone through that period in life where you've had that big breakup, you've got sectioned, thankfully come out of that. What was it like coming out of that 4 weeks? Was it you said that you were sectioned? What was that like coming out? Was there a fear there coming out? Was there joy? What was going on at the time?
Initially, it was joy. I remember sitting in the back of mum and dad's car thinking, finally, I'm going home. I'm so happy. Now I can get on with my life, get back on track. Um, but I didn't realize how much time the recovery would be. And I tried to go back to my job and I had a phased return, but ultimately couldn't do it. Like, couldn't perform the job that I was doing before I got ill. Um, and yeah, I got really depressed because I just felt, like a shadow of my former self. And I was doing that thing where I was being really harsh to myself and like comparing myself to others too much, thinking I should have this, that, and the other by this age. Um, and it was just a really, really hard time. And I was kind of glad to see the end of it. Um, I kind of had like this glass half empty kind of thinking at the time, thinking like there wouldn't be a light at the end of the tunnel. Um, so it was hard to kind of. I'm still really grateful to like my family and my friends to keep me going. Like they were kind of the thing I had in my life that I wanted to keep going for because I'd like go to bed at night thinking, I'm not looking forward to anything the next day. And I'd stay in bed thinking there's nothing to get up for. But I had like little moments where like I'd go out and meet my friends, and even though I felt like a burden, I didn't want to share my life with anyone. It did kind of give me a little boost, and like that little boost would sort of carry me and keep me going, and make me want to get better, like not just for myself but for other people.
How are you now, like today? So how has your mental health and your diagnosing that changed you as a person from back then to now?
I I think it's definitely made me a better person. I feel like a kind of second version of myself. I sort of see who I was before the first episode and now as like not two completely different people, but like just I'm like a sort of better, more wise version. And yeah, it's led to, even though it was really harsh, it was like a blessing in disguise because um I learned so much and it's kind of led to a lot of good things. Like I've been able to eventually turn it into good things. So I don't regret it, even though like I don't wish it on my worst enemy. Um, I wouldn't change any of it because I'm kind of looking at how I am now. Like I've got a job and a partner, and um, things are looking up, and like I'm just trying to do my bit and just kind of help other people kind of get through it, and just trying to put fulfillment first, really, going forward. Like trying to live a happy life and stuff.
So for the listeners out there, can you explain to us a bit more about the disorder? Like, what is it? What are some of the symptoms, triggers and that you're kind of facing on a day to day?
Mm. So schizoaffective is on a spectrum between bipolar and schizophrenia because it shares symptoms with both. Um, so it can be a mood disorder and a psychotic disorder. And I think where I sit is more towards the psychotic schizophrenia side because the medication I take is an antipsychotic. Like I don't take any mood stabilizers at the moment. I have taken them before to like recover and stuff, but at the moment I'm just on the one type of medication. Um, so sort of day to day, I'm not affected by it too much as long as I keep taking my meds and keep being sensible. Because my meds basically help me sleep and help my brain kind of wind down in the evening. And as long as my sleep and my stress levels are good, I'm more or less okay. Um, but like if I took that medication away, the chances like, of me relapsing again would be a lot higher, I might go into another episode of psychosis where I have those, hallucinations, delusions, moments again. Um, but it's all kind of, like a question of like balance, just keeping things sensible, like, not having too much alcohol and just eating well and doing bits and bobs that keep me healthy, like exercise and eating well and like meditating and all those kind of little things that they might be little on their own, but like together they're kind of all keeping me well. I see your
Yeah, so
dog.
we've just been joined by Let's Be Frank's dog Max. He's always he joins every session we do. He's normally
uh,
sat on, so in the room I'm in, I sit in like the kids like playroom. So there's normally like a little bed in here for when my boys come. That's where they stay. So when we're recording, he normally sits and sleeps on there, but because we took the bed
uh,
away because we're moving, he's now thought, do you know what, Dad? I want to come and sit on your lap. However, you're too big to do that, mate. And we're having a really good deep conversation. But you want to join in? That's absolutely fine. So your book, Befriending My Brain, is again. I know we spoke off air in that it's reaching crazy heights. It's doing really well. As you say again, you mentioned at the beginning. So obviously you got the audio. What motivated you in writing this book, and how did you find it?
so I guess after I read the light bulb moment memoir, I kind of got the writing bug. So I discovered Minds, the mental health charity, and that on their website they have like guest blogs. And so I read some of the guest blogs, saw people with similar condition to me were doing blogs, and they were brilliant. And I thought, hopefully, I can put one of these together. And I had it got published on their website, which felt amazing. And then it felt amazing again when I put it on my social media and got like lots of nice feedback. Um, so I did more blogs after that, and then through meeting other people that were doing blogging, I discovered one of them was getting published with the same publisher I'm with now. So that's like how I discovered them. And I just thought, yeah, I've got enough kind of material inside my head, I think, to put down in a book. Um, and I kind of remember doing the first three chapters like really quick, like maybe I'm trying to think, did it take me a week to write them or anyway, it was like I was really into it. And then I kind of was it was like an on and off project that I, it had no deadline and no pressure. It was just like do it in my own time whenever I felt like it. And I noticed that the writing itself was making me feel good, like it was a form of therapy in itself. Um, and I just kind of kept going, and it took nearly 4 years between starting the book and submitting it to the publisher. So it was really satisfying to actually get it out there. And yeah, it's been a really it's a thing that it's one of the decisions I'm the most happy that I kind of went for it, if that makes sense. It was
Oh, no,
it's been a really good
hugely.
use of my
And
time. Yeah.
how did you find the process of that 4 years writing a book and obviously dealing with day to day life with the disorder and just, general mental health and that? How did you balance that?
I think some of the material in the book is quite serious and quite dark and quite maybe a little bit depressing. And so when I was doing those chapters, like when I was sections, when I was depressed, I had to be careful when I was writing. I didn't spend too much time writing. I kind of said to myself, like, that's enough. This is upsetting me. I need to step back and do something else, which is going to cheer me up. Um, so I had to be careful not to kind of get myself too involved in it, if that makes sense. But that was kind of like, I guess, a small part of it. The rest of it, I was kind of, I'd write it and I feel like quite good about myself, and it would be like a really satisfying thing that I did during the day. I went to bed thinking, oh, I did a chapter today, and it made me feel really good.
Yeah, it's all about them kind of small wins. You know, for
Mm.
writing a chapter for a book is a massive win in my eyes, but for for yourself that may be seen as a small win. But it's all about accepting them little wins. You know what I mean? We said this on the show before. There'll be people out there that getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth is a massive win for them. That's a struggle in itself for some people. So again, being able to do that and really focus on it for 4 years. Did you have any moments in them 4 years where you thought kind of that imposter syndrome, like, do you know what, no one wants to hear my story, or do you know what, I don't want to do this book anymore? Did you have any? And if you did have them moments, how did you kind of overcome them?
I think I had them a little bit, yeah. Because my old self was very self-critical and would be a bit like, "Oh, you've done this today, so what?" And I kind of had to become the person who, excuse me, who really realizes that baby steps are like really good and they're big steps. Um, so yeah, I think I kind of had good feedback as I was doing it from like my partner and my mum, but I guess they were kind of like my closed circle, and even though they were saying good things, part of me would think, oh, they're biased, they're gonna
You,
tell me it's
you're
good.
saying that because you have to say it. Yeah,
Yeah, sort of
that's
that sort of
that's the
thing.
thought you'll get. Yeah.
So I think I kind of hoped it was good, but I didn't start believing it was good until I got some reviews on Amazon from people I never met who were saying they really enjoyed it, and I thought, okay, that's a relief. Like, um, kind of
It does that,
what I
doesn't
was,
it? Getting
yeah,
getting reviews or getting comments from people you don't know make a huge difference. Again, we'd have comments from friends and families for the show saying that we absolutely loved it. You come across very well. You're bringing a subject to the forefront that needs to be. But then when you get reviews and that from people overseas and people you've never met in your life saying the same thing, that's they're the ones you hold on to more because they mean, if
mm,
for me, they mean more because again that person took the time out of their day to do that and they didn't have to, and it means a lot. And I think people forget about that. We're so quick as as a nation, really, but as people, we're so quick to write a negative comment if we don't like something. Yet if we find something enjoyable, we don't take the time to give that person credit, and that's quite detrimental to a lot of people because there'll be a lot of things out there. There could be another book on Amazon that everybody loves and it'd be fantastic, yet it might not have any reviews because people haven't took the time to give it a review. I could see that happening a lot. Do you feel with your book, is there any kind of key messages or insights that you're hoping the readers can kind of take from it?
yeah, definitely. I tried to write it in a way that it's something, no matter who you are, if you've got mental illness or not, you can learn from it and take things away from it and feel like it was a good use of your time reading it. But even like the title of it is one of the key messages in itself because it's something I had to do. I used to think it was me versus the mental illness, and I wanted to be the winner. Um, and I slowly had to realize that me and the mental illness don't need to be enemies. We can be allies, and actually, that's what's going to do me the most good is kind of learning from my illness and like almost having it like a badge of honor, kind of feeling, this is who I am. Um, so I think, yeah, things like that are like what I kind of want the book to convey, essentially.
I think it will, mate. Hugely do think it will. And obviously, you've got, as you say, you've got that badge of honor, that lived experience, and more people like yourself with that lived experience need to be utilized when it comes to someone else who is experiencing or suffering. How are you using your time at the moment, and obviously everything you've gone through? i- How are you using that to kind of impact on
Um,
people?
Things I'm up to now. So I've got my job with a mental health charity, which is very good. platform I can use, share my lived experience. Um, but outside of that, I'm trying to do kind of as many things as I can within reason, like not overdoing it, but like going on podcasts and generally like writing other articles for websites and taking part in research and just kind of trying to do my bit really. Because I think the illnesses that I've been through are not as talked about as like anxiety and depression, for example. They don't have the same level of coverage and awareness. So I think it's something I'm really passionate about is kind of just I think the more people know about them and understand them, that it will do everyone a lot of good. It will like help prevent it and it will help people recover from it. So um, I'm just trying to do a little bit at a time, and it's really fulfilling. So it's like it doesn't feel like work to me. It's more of a hobby, I guess.
And how are you finding the process of, obviously working at the charity? Who's the charity you work for?
They're called Hertfordshire Mine Network, so they're one of the local mines. So you've got like the national mines um, charity, and then you've got the separate local ones.
Oh, perfect. Happy days. Guys, if you're listening, make sure you go and check them out as well. How are you finding the process of helping those who come in to obviously find help? How is that for you? Does it stir up bad memories? Do you enjoy that process?
It's mixed, I suppose. So my role, because I'm in the marketing team, I don't see our clients very much, which is kind of like pros and cons because I feel like if I saw clients too much, it might affect me. It might like get me down and get me too worried. But when I do see the odd client, like I kind of one of my colleagues every now and then will say, "Oh, someone I'm trying to help is suffering from the same condition that you have been through. Do you mind having a chat with them?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I'll be happy to." And that is like one of the best bits of the job, just getting to kind of have a chat with someone and kind of help be a like hopefully a little part of their journey to recovery. To be honest, just doing what I can.
It is an amazing feeling having that conversation with someone who is struggling and not understanding um, to like an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it may be afterwards. Um, and then having that kind of light bulb moment again, um, it's huge because with getting back to getting dragged out of the room. Um, I had it not so long ago. I had a guy local to me reach out, really struggling. Was on the brink of suicide. Was like, I just need to get out and go for like a chat and that. So we took Max out. So we took Max out for a walk. We spent just over 3 hours out. Um,
Mm.
he literally once we finished, like an hour later, messaged me saying, "Mate, I feel amazing. I've eaten for the first time in like 3 days. This is what I've eaten." Because I said to him, when you get home, you're gonna make some food and you're gonna send me a picture. Again, it was kind of that the way I looked at it. I was like, right, what can I do in order to make him actually do something? I'm like, well, if I hold him accountable for his actions, maybe that'll trigger something. And thankfully, it worked on him, so he did. So he ate some food,
Mm.
and now we talk every now and then, and he's doing brilliant. He's just about to go on a massive UK tour with a band and do all their photography, and he's come on so much,
Wow.
so many leaps and bounds after like one conversation. Obviously, he's doing a lot of work for. I'm not saying it's all accredited to me because it's not, but he's doing a lot of background work and he's seeing the right people. But to have the ability to be in his story for that one moment is a huge deal, and it's a privilege to have people have that trust in you to want to listen to you. And this is kind of where people with lived experience and the professional world need to work together. So if they do have someone that comes in and they're like, I can't kind of get through to them, well, send them, get in touch with someone who's lived experience, speak to them, let them tell you their story. Because once you hear someone's story, like you have and I have, it enables you to understand better of what is actually going on. And then you get the light bulb moment going through.
Mm. Yeah.
So with your coming on to your book, are you wanting to write another book? Are you wanting what's the next steps for you?
Yeah, I'm kind of working on the second one. So last year, September, I randomly wrote a poem on the way to. We were on holiday and I was on a flight and I was bored and I was kind of doing a bit of diary journal writing and I had like a pen and paper with me, like a notebook, sorry. And yeah, I don't know where it came from, but I just wrote a poem about how like what I was doing in that moment, and it kind of got a bit addictive, and I kind of it's similar to the other writing. I kind of caught the bug, and I think I'm on about 30 something poems now, and I started doing a bit of drawing, like illustrations for them as well. And I can't draw. I'm just keeping it as simple as possible.
You like me, like a little stick man, mate. That's all I can do. A stick
Yeah,
man. If that's about it.
I'm
I
hope.
tried to draw Sonic from Google once just to do it for my kid, and it was all right, but it was nothing compared to what you can actually do. So
I can't draw very well, but I'm hoping to send it off maybe in a few months or something. And I don't know if it will be any good or not. But it's similar process to last time, where if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's still been a good use of my time. So we'll see. I hope the first book can kind of do well and like influence the publisher, like um, that because you've got to build the author like brand and reputation and things like that. So I've kind of been working hard to hopefully give the second book like that kind of platform with the first one has given it, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll see. We'll
because
see.
I've seen, obviously we speak on the socials and that, and I see you constantly on there with the book, getting out there to the public and showcasing what it is you've done, and more people need to see this and hear this, and again, listen to the guy's story, listen to everyone's story. Like there's a
Mm,
difference from certain types of biographies, right? Let's get that there. There's a few biographies out there that you're like, this is useless. So people with actual stories, and this is why we have Let's Be Frank. We want people with stories to come on and share them, because there'll be someone in the world that would listen to this podcast, whether it will be in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, 2 years' time, or more, that will relate to this. And this will enable them to understand what they're going through. That's the power of conversation. That's
mm,
what you're doing in your book. That's what you've done in your first book. And now you're doing with your poems. And from everyone, let's be frank, we hope you're the best for that. And we're definitely going to be, following through the process on that.
thank
Where
you.
can people get your book?
It's on Amazon, so it's in a paperback format or an ebook Kindle format. It's on Waterstone's website. It's in a few independent bookshops, but that's kind of the hard part is getting it in like mainstream bookshops. I don't think it will get there, but it's easy to just order it online and get it delivered, or you buy the ebook Kindle and you've got instant access. And hopefully in the next few months or so, the audiobook will be available. We've got my friend's going to be checking it over to see if we need to re-record any bits, and then publisher's got to check it, and we'll see what they say. So fingers crossed it will be available really soon.
Fingers crossed, guys. We will be putting the link for James's book in the description of this podcast, and make sure you check it out. Make sure you keep an eye out for his next book, and I'm definitely sure we will have him on for that book as well. Um, but for now, James, have you got any words of wisdom, shall we say, for anyone out there that is either going through kind of schizophrenia or have got thoughts of something's not right? What would your words be to them?
Mm. I guess like find your thing that works for you, because everyone's different. So like what works for me not might not work for someone else, and vice versa. I think medication is, for me, it's been really important. I used to be a bit anti-medication, but now without it, I wouldn't be able to live my life. So I think keep an open mind about different forms of help. The same with therapy. I used to be a bit anti-therapy, but then I had CBT and had like a life-changing experience with that. So I think like try lots of new things, keep an open mind, and it's always best to ask for help and share rather than keeping it to yourself. I think that's the most important thing.
Hey, thank you very much, James. You've been a gentleman and a scholar, and it's been an absolute privilege to have you on this episode. Again,
You
guys,
too.
make sure you check out the description for his book. Check it out over on Amazon as well, Befriending My Brain. But for now, sadly, Ryan's not here, who does all the ends and outros for this. But as Ryan would say, stand up, speak out. It's okay not to be okay. Until next time, goodbye.